and the ICF Global DEIB Ambassador for Africa. She's also the founder and CEO of Unravel Coaching, where she works with leaders, teams, and individuals to build courageous leadership that is rooted in authenticity, wholeness, and meaningful connection. Anybody who knows Wangari on a personal level knows that she embodies these things, specifically the element of meaningful connection. She specializes in helping leaders navigate their inner landscape so that they can lead with greater presence and authenticity. Her work is very much grounded in psychological safety, compassionate inquiry, and creating spaces where people can show up fully as themselves. So with that said, please join me in warmly welcoming Wangari Wahome to the floor. Wangari, karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're delighted to have you. That was such a wonderful introduction, Lynn, and I'm happy to hear what everyone thinks when they hear of DEIB. And today we are also really blessed to have both Aikina and Jen grace this conversation to help us champion DEIB in our local context, especially being very early in the morning for them. So thank you, Jen. Thank you, Aikina, once again, and karibuni sana. So they will be speaking to us in a few minutes as well. But before that, and before we get started, I would like to invite you, each one of us, to pause just for a moment and check in with yourself. For some of us, it's early in the morning. For others, it's lunchtime. So a little grounding will help us here. And I will lead you through a short guided reflection to help us arrive into this space. Please remember, this is purely volitional and you can opt out at any time. So if you're ready, I invite you to close your eyes if it feels safe, or simply soften your gaze. And then take a slow, full breath in. And as you exhale, let your shoulders drop and notice what you are feeling without trying to fix or change it. And you can take one more breath, breathing in into that space within you that knows how to be still. And in this stillness, I would also want to invite you to pay attention to this quote that I'm just about to read by Stephen Cope, who has done some great work on fostering deep human connection. I will read it once and slowly. And my invitation here is that give yourself permission to soak it all in and notice how it lands for you. So I will begin, quote unquote, human beings are afflicted. Our true affliction is not to get what we want, or our inability to get rid of what we don't want, mostly sickness, old age, and death. The true nature of our affliction is that we are unable and unwilling to come into our inheritance as fully alive human beings. End of quote. So as you notice how this is landing for you, when you feel ready, butterfly, open your eyes and arrive into this space as you are and as you are not. I would also like to remind you and invite you to bring your curiosity, your questions, and your open heart into this conversation. And if you can, please remember to have your camera on because it helps us to feel all more connected. So taking it right on from where Lynn landed us with the mentee, for me, I first heard of this word DEIB at my former place of work. And looking back now, I see the last two words, inclusion and belonging, are what drew me in. And perhaps because I've had a lived experience with that sense of being excluded. Growing up, one of my parents could love you one moment and feel unsafe the next. And that became my early education in emotional unpredictability, walking on eggshells and waiting for the other shoe to drop. As an adaptation and a way to cope with what I perceived to be rejection, I quickly learned how to hustle for worthiness and acceptance, which, if you ask me now, is no way to live. And it doesn't have to be, because we all come into this world bearing worthiness and dignity. Today, I am grateful because I can share my story from the scar and not the wound. And if you've been here, I see you and I feel with you. So the long and short of my story is that our early experiences shape us far more than we tend to realize. And here is the rub. Our childhood experience does not stay in childhood. It follows us into adulthood in the form of patterns, defenses, and relational strategies that we default to. Into every organizational system we enter, every team we lead, every feedback conversation we attempt, and every conflict that we navigate or avoid. We simply never leave a part of us behind. And simply put, who we are is how we lead and parent. Yes, you heard me right. Parenting is in many ways the most challenging yet most overlooked and essential form of leadership. So our early experiences don't just influence who we become. They continue to shape how we think, relate, and lead. And this is especially true for leaders as far as their ability to co-create and cultivate psychological safety is concerned. Now, the adaptations that we carry from our childhood also become the foundation and manifestation of other symptoms that we may experience at the workplace, be it burnout, decision fatigue, addictions, overfunctioning, workplace bullying, to name but a few. All thanks to a dysregulated nervous system. But why is this important? My story represents but one facet of trauma at the workplace. And this is the effects of unexamined childhood trauma in the workplace. And while trauma is often perceived as rare, many people experience trauma in one way or another, be it through personal loss, grief, catastrophic event, pandemics, we have all been there, and major life transitions. And for most of these experiences, the emotional closure is implicit. And so when we add this list of traumas to adverse childhood experiences, then we realize that trauma at the workplace is even more significant and very prevalent, since not everyone discloses their experiences and fully recognizes the impact these experiences or the metabolized trauma have on their well-being. So to be clear, and going by the definition of Dr. Gabor Mate, a renowned childhood trauma expert, trauma is not what happened to us. Rather, it is what happens inside of us as a result of what happened to us. And at the workplace, it can show up in the form of absenteeism, disengagement, high turnover, and low morale. And this is what makes trauma-informed leadership so important. And by itself, this is an approach that is centered or rooted in empathy, psychological safety, and a conscious effort to create non-judgmental and supportive environments where we can all feel valued, heard, and understood so that we can do our best work and, if permitting, meaningful work for that matter. And this is what makes DEIB work absolutely essential. By understanding and addressing the connection between trauma-informed leadership, DEIB, organizations can create more inclusive spaces that support healing, resilience, and equitable outcomes for all. So needless to say, trauma-informed leadership with a DEIB lens is no doubt a strategic imperative for business growth and employee retention as well as organizational resilience. I understand this only too well because I have lived every chapter of it. In other words, we can have people belong to a team or an organization or a family for that matter, but that does not simply mean that they experience a sense of belonging. Psychological safety is that special glue that makes inclusion complete by fostering a sense of community and belonging at the workplace where we can all show up engaged and authentically. Now, the thing is, cultures that are rooted in safety and belonging do not happen by accident. They are shaped by leaders who are no longer operating from survival and who model authenticity and vulnerability and also reward it. Research by Amy Edmondson at Harvard Business School identifies psychological safety, the belief that one can take risks, speak up, and make mistakes without punishment, as one of the strongest indicators or predictors of team performance. So at an individual level, this work is also very, very important because both belonging and safety are biological imperatives for each one of us. On one hand, we are hardwired for love, belonging, and connection as human beings. On the other hand, safety is more than the mere lack of danger. It is a felt sense in the body that says, I am safe to fall in love with life and I can take the risk of living. So safety is foundational and precedes belonging. And at the same time, belonging reinforces safety. So this work is also about tending to basic yet essential human needs at the workplace and beyond. And this is what became the foundation of my work, as well as what motivated me to join the ICF Global DEIB Collective so that together we can transform the spaces where we live and work by cultivating belonging and safety. So my invitation today here for all of us, if you're a coach, this is an invitation to champion DEIB work by moving beyond cultivating trust and safety in our coaching conversations to our places of work and beyond, which is also in keeping with embodying the mindset of a coach. As a collective, for each one of us here, when we walk out of this conversation, please remember that each one of us is going through something. And how about bringing a compassionate lens to how we show up, lead and parent, by moving from masking what is wrong with someone to what happened to them. That is just but one lens, the effect of trauma at the workplace. But there are also many other lenses that we can pursue. One of them being who we are as a people. As a country and as a continent, DEIB takes on a very personal architecture. Our diversity is undeniable from language, ethnicity, gender, age, religion, and even education. Yet it's fair to say that we still face real gaps in how fairly people are treated, heard, and supported at the workplace. Now, looking at the lens of language and ethnicity, we are blessed beyond measure. We have 43 tribes. That's who we are. But at face value, the tribe may just be a label. But at deeper level, it is nuanced as it is complex. Our ethnicity carries with it our identity, our cultural norms and customs. It influences the foods that we like and partake of. It also is our heritage. It also stands for where we can identify our geographic orientation on a map. But every so often, it's not uncommon to hear us refer to each other by our tribe, Mjaluo Fulani, I'm a Maasai. Or taking it even a notch higher, picture yourself entering into a building or to the office and greeting the sentry as Soja, Mambo. So while these are practical ways of communicating, the problem herein lies that it can easily teeter into othering, which basically means viewing a person and treating them as if they're intrinsically different from who we are. So the invitation here is an opportunity to champion DEIB by seeing and treating other people beyond the labels that we assign them and truly seeing the human being behind this label. Let's call people by their names, because it is said that to be known is to be seen, and to be seen is to be loved. And what's more, this is at the core of our values at ICF, is that value of shared humanity. Then there's also the issue of disability. We are differently abled, and that's a fact. For some of us, our disabilities are visible to the eye. We are mostly recognized and supported, systemically or otherwise. But for some of us, our disabilities remain invisible to the naked eye. And so put differently, some of us are neurotypical while others are neuroatypical. And this brings us to the realm of neurodiversity at the workplace. And this includes persons living with ADHD or autism, for instance. So the million-dollar question is, how can we consciously make neurodiverse folks feel included at the workplace and beyond? In many ways, inclusion and belonging feels like being invited to a party and finding a meal option that meets your dietary requirements. So lastly, there's also the multi-generational workforce. In our context, we have Gen Zs who are very outspoken and extremely creative and very keen to have meaningful work. They care for authenticity, purposeful work, and opportunities to learn and grow. And this is a deal breaker for them, as it is our reality. So the question begs, how can we make them feel included at the workplace? And cultivating psychological safety and adding in a healthy dose of compassion is what will enable us to move beyond creating safe spaces to cultivating brave and compassionate spaces that will allow us to not only embrace discomfort, but to also bravely navigate uncomfortable conversations, be it about trauma, lived experiences, or microaggressions at work, without prematurely collapsing the discourse. It's about building a culture where people don't feel the need to shrink to fit in. So the big question is, how do we move from talk to real transformation? And what does it truly look like to champion DEIB, not just as a nice to have, but a non-negotiable part of how we do business and lead? This is the soul and crux of our conversation today. And at this point, I'd like to invite Dr. Jen Koster to speak to us about ICF's global DEIB work, basically speaking to who, what, when, and why, and more. But before that, please allow me to introduce her. Dr. Jen Koster is an associate certified coach, a global DEIB educator, speaker, coach, and engagement manager whose work focuses on helping organizations turn inclusion into everyday practice. She designs and facilitates international learning experiences on cultural competency. I have been part of that. Cultural humility, that as well. Allyship, generational diversity, accessibility, and inclusive coaching. Regularly presenting to global audiences across coaching education and professional development spaces. With a background in education, coaching, and inclusive learning design, Dr. Koster is known for blending research, storytelling, and practical application to create engaging conversations that challenge people to grow while building cultures of belonging. Having interacted with Jen in this space, I am a testament to this, and I am delighted to pass the baton on to her. Jen, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the invitation to be here today. I am very excited. It is a little early in the US, but I have children, so I was up anyway. I will share my screen, and I'm excited to talk to everyone about the who, what, when, where, and how of our DEIB department. Hopefully you can all see that. Awesome. Before we get started, I will say that I am lucky that I am extremely proud of what we do, and I don't just work every day. I come in and do things that I enjoy and I'm proud of. So as I'm talking to you, I hope that comes through. So I'll get started since I have a few minutes to tell you. And again, I am Jen Koster. I have my LinkedIn up. I post constantly about the things that we're doing here in DEIB. I welcome you to connect with me because I am your DEIB engagement manager here at ICF Global, which means I'm here for all of you. So please feel free to connect with me. I would welcome that. And again, I'm here today to talk to you about the history of diversity at ICF. So we'll take a little look at where the work began, what has grown, and where the department is moving to next. And so, before we talk about where DEIB at ICF is today, we have to understand how quickly this work has evolved and how intentionally it's been built over time. In 2020, the ICF Global Board of Directors formally approved the ICF Statement of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging and Justice. And that moment mattered because it moved DEIB from being just a conversation happening around the organization to a clear organizational commitment. It established a shared foundation and signaled that this work was not temporary or performative. It was becoming part of ICF's identity and future direction. Also, in 2020, ICF created a DEIB task force to begin identifying and assessing the diversity needs of the organization and our broader coaching community. This was an important step because it recognized that meaningful inclusion work requires listening, gathering data, and honest evaluation, which are all things that we teach you if you come to our classes. The organization began asking deeper questions about representation, access, belonging, and systemic barriers within coaching spaces. And as it notes here, this was mainly brought on and brought into full focus from the incident with George Floyd in the United States. In 2021, coaching and education expanded that momentum and created a diversity advisory board and a diversity guide specifically for educators. This reflected an understanding that DEIB can't live only at an organizational level. It also has to show up in practice, in classrooms, in leadership, and in the way coaching is taught and experienced around the world. And we're still seeing that today if you look at our core competencies. Then, in 2022, ICF hired its first director of DEIB. That was another huge milestone because it demonstrated a long-term investment in infrastructure, strategy, and accountability. And that meant DEIB work was no longer being carried solely through volunteer passion or temporary initiatives. It now had dedicated leadership focused on building sustainable systems and global engagement. In that same year, ICF also conducted an extensive diversity audit. This helped provide a clearer picture of where the organization was succeeding, where gaps still existed, and where future growth was needed. And honestly, that was critical. DEIB work only moves forward when organizations are willing to examine themselves with transparency and humility. And what we see across these years isn't a single initiative. We see the beginning of a culture shift, one that continues evolving through education, community engagement, member resource groups, leadership development, and global dialogue across the coaching profession. And after 2022, the vice president position was added, showing the seriousness that ICF was taking DEIB. 2023 marked significant change. Our own Dr. Finch became DEIB director, and the department itself became the DEIB department. And 2024, our current team began to form. Dr. Finch became the head of the DEIB department. I was hired as engagement manager. And then 2025, just last year, Dr. Finch became our vice president. Yay. And we added a coordinator position. My amazing coworker, Sarah, was hired as training coordinator. So our team was taking shape as we know it. So here is our team as it stands today. So our milestones have really been 2023 with the original 2020 diversity statement. We have, of course, our statement, but in 2023, our original diversity statement was edited to make it more concise and aligned with ICF Global's overall mission and vision. The diversity audit was conducted on the testing process specifically for credentialing. Wangari mentioned neurodiversity, and that group specifically expressed concerns about the testing process for credentialing. Our Credentials and Standards Department listened carefully to that feedback, conducted an audit, and as a result, many changes were made, and a white paper was published as a result of that. Our Global Diversity Council was formed to advise the DEIB department on diversity issues. That council speaks on behalf of members. Initially, it started with just 6 members. The group considers issues brought forth and offers advice on how to proceed with issues. And we started developing and facilitating training. There was global cultural competencies and the chapter leader trainings, as well as a paid course called Generational Differences. At that time, 3 member resource groups were launched. The BIPOC group, which stands for Black, Indigenous, Persons of Color, Young Professionals, which is for young folks 40 and under, and persons with disabilities. But where are we now? Which is really the important thing. We've come very, very far. We have launched our DEIB landing page on Engage. I highly recommend you come over and check us out if you haven't already. We have launched 2 additional member resource groups, our International Military Veterans and our Kaleidoscope member resource groups. And we have a DEIB practitioners group, which is for folks who are interested in DEIB work at any stage, whether you are brand new or you've been doing DEIB work for years. No matter where you are, this group is extremely welcoming. They want to help everybody and see everybody succeed when it comes to DEIB work. These groups come together. They're led by 2 to 4 co-leaders in each one. My co-leaders are amazing volunteers. They work very tirelessly to put together programming every month to be inclusive, relevant to our coaches, and to bring forth speakers, member spotlights, and things they call safety couches, where it's just simply a conversation about whatever is relevant in the group at the time. We've also launched a coach educator DEIB learning series. So our coach educators have a 4-part series that we do twice a year. We have taken the global cultural competency class that many people have taken already, but we've turned that into a 3-part series, which now includes advancing cultural competency and coaching with and cultural humility, sorry. We've also created 3 quarterly offerings: allyship and coaching, conscientious inclusion coaching, and generations in practice, which is about all of the different generations and work in the workplace right now. Formerly, we had a class called Generational Differences, which was behind a paywall. After a lot of consideration and discussion, we revamped that class completely, updated it, tried to take away the American perspective as much as possible, and remove that paywall. So this class is now free and open to all coaches who are ICF members, and we offer it every quarter. And we also formed the DEIB Ambassadors Program to better connect with chapters. So we have wonderful folks like Wangari who have taken on being a liaison between us and the chapters, because we love connecting with the chapters, but as you can see, there are just the 3 of us. So as much as we would love to talk to everyone all the time, we can't do that. So folks like Wangari act as our go-between and then connect us when we need to. So that makes it possible for us to come in and talk when we are asked to. We've also done some other things to spread the message of DEIB. So here are some of the things that we've done recently. We have created the Voices of Belonging monthly series, which we open not only to coaches, but to non-coaches as well. So anybody is welcome to come and attend this series. Yesterday, we focused on kaleidoscope from a global perspective. We had an amazing turnout. It was a wonderful conversation. Next month, we will have Vice President Steve Weiss from ICF coming on. So if you're interested in hearing what he has to say, asking questions, being part of that conversation, please feel free to come in and join that discussion. We also hosted 3 presentations and 5 MRG sessions at ICF Converge in October. We've hosted 2 presentations for ICF Coaching Week ourselves, and I'm not even sure how many we're going to speak at this week, but it's a few. We've presented to 3 family organizations within ICF. We've updated and presented the DEIB Chapter Leader Toolkit. Dr. Finch does that. And between Dr. Finch, myself, and Sarah, we've met with or presented to various conferences and chapters such as yours, South Africa, South Florida, New England, Italy, Ukraine, Slavic, Armenia, Switzerland, the Texas Coaches Conference, Peralta Community College, Equity Conference, Mumbai, New Jersey, Pune, Netherlands, and we have a whole bunch more additional engagements scheduled as well. We're really looking forward to them. Each year we select a theme. Awareness and belonging is our theme for 2026. And that's a focus bridge from internal culture to member experience. Dr. Finch, as vice president, focuses on the bigger picture of awareness. Me as engagement manager, I get to focus this year on belonging, and the B in belonging is my personal favorite. So I was pretty pleased about that. Last year, we focused on people and culture as we were really kicking off a lot of these initiatives. And our goals were to build awareness about the DEIB department and programs, increase DEIB engagement from members and chapters, update the Global Diversity Council's goals, and to launch our Kaleidoscope MRG, which I think we've done that. We do consistently maintain 4 meaningful focus areas. We want to expand global representation for underrepresented communities to ensure inclusion and belonging throughout our ecosystem. So that is our number one driving goal and what you'll see us constantly work toward. We want to invest in education to increase diversity, intelligence, and provide professional development for leaders, volunteers, staff, ICF members, and stakeholders. So we continue to expand on our class offerings. You'll see those continually get developed. We get feedback on those each time we run a class or a workshop, and we take that feedback seriously. If something comes up, we take a look at the class, assess it, and make changes where necessary. And each year we go through and determine whether or not we need to make changes. We always make sure that we're creating an accessible environment for all stakeholders. And we always look at establishing policies that reinforce equity throughout the coaching profession and ICF community. Our FOs have been wonderful about being in conversation with us about any concerns that members have brought to us. Change doesn't always happen quickly, but it does happen. And when we say expand global representation for underrepresented communities, of course, that means increased representation of underrepresented communities. That means seeing more folks in roles that matter. Sponsor member resource groups for BIPOC, people with disabilities, international military veterans, Kaleidoscope, and young professionals. We want to increase the number of chapters with DEIB board members. And we've seen so much of this recently with our DEIB ambassadors program, and double the number of partners who help underrepresented populations. When we talk about increasing education, 30% of total membership will participate in global cultural competency by the end of fiscal year 26. We found that typically if people take global cultural competency, we continue to see them in advancing cultural competency and cultural humility. And then they start showing up in a lot of our other classes. So we're very happy about that. 15% of total membership will participate in ACC by the end of fiscal year 26. And then our fiscal year 26, we want to create DEIB courses for the whole ecosystem by the end of this year. We plan a retreat in July, and our laundry list of things to do would probably take us the entire month of July, but it's something we all look forward to. When we talked about creating an accessible environment, we wanted to make sure that we were sponsoring MRGs for people with disabilities and veterans. I'm personally a person with disabilities. I have a physical disability, but I also have ADHD. So persons with disabilities is one that's very near and dear to my heart. We're always looking at making sure that our classes and events are accessible. Our veterans are a very underrepresented community. I think we're one of the first organizations to really offer any kind of member resource group for veterans. And right now, our co-leaders for the veterans community are doing a great job in really building that group up and providing some great programming for them. We also partnered with Credentials and Standards on a project for veterans. Right now in the United States, they're able to use some of their military funding to take coaching credential programs. And then we wanted to create a course on allyship and inclusion in coaching. And of course, we didn't stop there. We also created a conscientious inclusion class, and we did the generations in practice, because why stop at one? And we wanted to establish policies that reinforce equity. We created and updated our policies by the end of fiscal year 26. We wanted to reduce our ethics, DEIB related emails and formal complaints by the end of FY 26, and create a hotline for DEIB related issues. So our DEIB policies, those are updated. We're now waiting for those to be executed. We do have our hotline created, and it is pending an official launch. We also have a lot of DEIB resources. As I've mentioned, our programs, our communities, our workshops, and connection points across ICF ecosystem. I've mentioned member resource groups a few different times. To clarify what those are, they are about our shared identities, interests, and lived experiences for each of those particular groups. And it is just one segment of a person's identity. We recognize that there's a lot of intersectionality across the different groups. Each group has 2 to 4 leaders. People are welcome to join as many of them as they would like, and we also welcome allies. For example, international military veterans. You may not be a veteran, you may be veteran adjacent, you may have worked with veterans, things like that. You're welcome to join. Please sign up through our DEIB Engage community. We also have our DEIB ambassadors. You may have heard of chapter champions before, but as I mentioned, this is a great program. These members are trained to provide information, answer questions, and connect our chapter leaders to ICF Global. We offer a chapter leader diversity workshop series. So anybody who is a chapter leader or a DEIB chapter leader are welcome to take this 4-part series. In that we talk about a lot of the things that you heard ICF had done previously, creating a diversity mission and vision statement and values, chapter data collection and reporting, setting chapter diversity goals, and DEIB and change management. So these are all things that we're willing to teach chapters how to do. So we don't just send people in blindly when it comes to DEIB. We teach them how to make it happen. If you're a coach educator and you want more information on DEIB, we offer a 4-part series as well. It's called the Coach Educator Diversity Workshop Series, and we offer the 4 sequential classes, facilitating critical conversations for coach educators, building DEIB into the curriculum for coach educators, managing bias for coach educators, and measuring what matters, data-driven DEIB and goal setting. And I'm almost done, but we have a lot going on. So we have DEIB chapter leader meetings. Those are hosted quarterly by Thea Charles from New England, and those are hosted on Zoom. Our next meeting is in a few hours, as a matter of fact. Information posted in the DEIB chapter leader group on Engage. DEIB chapter leaders can join the group through the DEIB Engage page, or you can contact me. We also have a supplemental monthly vibe meeting hosted by Dr. Mindy Gearwertz out of New Jersey and Dr. Farousa Mansour out of South Africa on Zoom. And I will say too, a lot of our MRG leaders, we only have 2 that are based out of the United States. So we are getting a lot of international perspective. So just something to note. So I know I have thrown so many things at you, but if you're ever interested in volunteering, we do have some spaces open for different things. I hope some of the things resonated with you today. If you have questions, please let me know. You can find us on Engage. That's our long address. I will try to drop it in the link here in a moment. My email, jen.koster@coachingfederation.org. You are welcome to email me. I may not be super fast at it because I do get a lot of emails, but I will respond. If you ever want to volunteer with Global, we are always happy to have you, and we'll find a space for you. LinkedIn, you can connect with me there. I'm always posting about what we're doing, but that is my presentation, and I thank you for having me on to talk about where we've been, what we're doing, why we're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jen, for letting us know how we can profit from you, Sarah, and Akina are doing back at the headquarters. So please join me in applauding Jen and really celebrating her for taking her time to speak to us. Thank you. So at this moment, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker. I know it's going to the top of the hour, but please be patient because she's phenomenal. Dr. Aikino Finch is a professional certified coach of ICF and is passionate DIB leader, educator, and strategist committed to creating inclusive spaces where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. I know I have witnessed her. As the Vice President of DEIB for the International Coaching Federation, she leads global initiatives that champion equity and belonging. With a doctorate of management and advanced degrees in technology and marketing, Dr. Finch merges data-driven strategy with human-centered leadership. She is also a TEDx speaker, author, and certified coach. Through her voice, vision, and advocacy, Dr. Finch empowers individuals and organizations to transform DIB from intention to impactful, lasting action. Dr. Finch is simply phenomenal, as I said. Please join me in welcoming her. You can send in an emoji of your choice to celebrate her and welcome her to speak to us. Aikina, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction. I hope I live up to it. Oh, but I'll do my best. I will definitely do my best. And so, there's no PowerPoint today. I just want to talk to you, if that's okay, everyone, because I feel that when we just talk one another, we build that connection. And I am super excited to be able to build connection with Kenya today. And so, good day, everyone. Yes, it is truly an honor to be a part of this conversation during International Coaching Week, and especially meaningful to engage in dialogue centered on DEIB through a Kenyan and African lens. And I want to begin by acknowledging something important. Conversations about DEIB, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, do not land the same way everywhere in the world. Context matters, culture matters, history matters, community matters. And Kenya has a unique story. A nation filled with innovation, resilience, entrepreneurship, cultural richness, and extraordinary human potential. At the same time, Kenya, like many countries, are also navigating real questions around identity, opportunity, equity, leadership, generational change, access, and belonging. And if we're going to be honest today about DIB, we can't just discuss concepts. We have to discuss reality, not the polished version, the lived one. The version people carry into the workplace, coaching conversations, churches, schools, homes, boardrooms, communities, and leadership spaces every single day. So I am Dr. Ikena Finch, and I serve as your Vice President of DEIB for the International Coaching Federation. I am also an educator, researcher, coach, and speaker, deeply invested in helping people move beyond performative inclusion into transformational humility. And today I want to unpack DIB together, not as imported language, not as Western terminology, not as corporate vocabulary, but as something deeply connected to humanity. Because DIB is not merely organizational work, it is human work, and human work is never shallow. So let us be honest. Sometimes DIB conversations feel uncomfortable from everyday life. People hear language and think, that sounds good in theory, but what does that mean for us? And honestly, that's a fair question. I hear it all the time. Because many organizations globally have become very good at saying the words, but not necessarily living them. And people can feel the difference. Organizations say the words, leaders post the statements, panels discuss inclusion, companies add the acronyms, but many people still don't feel seen. They don't feel heard, they don't feel valued, and that disconnect matters. Because DEIB is not measured by what an organization says. It is measured by what people experience. And in many communities across Africa, people are still navigating inclusion every single day. Sometimes it's tribal, sometimes it's economic, sometimes it's generational, sometimes it's educational, sometimes it's gender-based, sometimes it is disability related, sometimes it is simply about access. Who gets the opportunity? Who gets the exposure, the mentorship? Who gets invited to leadership conversation, and who gets assumed to belong? And sometimes exclusion is not loud. Sometimes it's subtle. And sometimes it sounds like you don't belong here. How many of us can resonate with that? I know I can. And sometimes it's you are welcome here as long as you fully don't bring your whole self. That is a very different thing. But I believe one of the greatest opportunities before us is to stop treating DEIB as external language and start treating it as internal reflection. How does that sit with everyone today? Internal reflection. Because before DEIB becomes organizational, it has to become personal. How do I treat people? Who do I listen to? Who do I interrupt? Whose excellence do I question? Whose perspective do I dismiss before they finish speaking? Whose reality do I diminish because I have never personally experienced it? Those are DEIB questions too. And honestly, some of the greatest barriers to belonging are not dramatic actions of exclusion. Sometimes they are repeated moments of invisibility, repeated moments of where people quietly learn this space was not built with me in mind. So let's go deeper. Bias is one of the hardest conversations in DEIB because people often hear the word and immediately feel accused. But bias is part of being a human being. The issue is not whether bias exists. The issue is whether we are willing to become aware of it. Because unexplained bias becomes normalized behavior, and normalized behavior shapes systems. Sometimes societies quietly teach us who is professional, who's educated, who should lead, who should stay quiet, who belongs in certain spaces, and often we absorb these ideas long before we question them. And that's why awareness matters, not guilt, awareness. And coaching is uniquely positioned to support that awareness because coaching invites curiosity instead of defensiveness. A coaching mindset asks, what assumptions am I carrying? Where did I learn this? What perspective have I not considered? How might my experience differ from someone else's reality? These kind of reflection, questions, and changes change people. And changed people change cultures. But we also must acknowledge something else. Bias is not only personal, it's also systemic. So sometimes inequity is built into access, opportunity, leadership pipelines, education, technology, and even visibility. And this is especially important in Kenya because this country is simultaneously navigating rapid innovation and long-standing social realities. Kenya's leading in technology, entrepreneurship, mobile banking innovation, youth creativity, digital transformation, but a nation can be globally innovative and still wrestle internally with inequity and exclusion. Those two things can exist simultaneously, and honestly, leadership requires us to hold both truths. But at the International Coaching Federation, this understanding is reflected more deeply in the updated Code of Ethics and the core values, which explicitly address systemic patterns of bias, oppression, dignity, equity, and humanity in coaching relationships. Because coaching does not happen outside society. Coaching happens inside lived realities. So one of the biggest mistakes people make in assuming inclusion only happens in large institutional moments. But belonging is also often built in small moments. Who gets acknowledged? Who gets invited? Who gets mentored? Who gets listened to? Who gets opportunities without constantly needing to prove themselves first? That is where inclusion lives. And I want to challenge us today to think beyond intention because many people intend to be inclusive, but intention without awareness can still create harm. So, what does practical inclusion look like? It looks like listening without immediately defending. It looks like creating environments where people do not feel pressured to shrink themselves to fit in. It looks like asking, what would people feel safe, valued, respected, and heard look like here? It looks like humility. And honestly, humility may be one of the most important leadership skills for the future because humility leaves home to learn. It leaves room to grow and it leaves room to repair. So at the International Coaching Federation, DEIB is not viewed as separate from the future of coaching. It's the foundation of it. And one of the things I appreciate about the direction of the DEIB department's work is that it continues to evolve intentionally over time. DEIB journey at ICF did not happen overnight. It grew through reflection, accountability, dialogue, global conversations around equity and belonging. And today that work includes our trainings, our practitioner groups, our chapter DIB initiatives, educational programs, and of course, the member research groups, which Jennifer has mentioned earlier today. And honestly, I think that matters because belonging doesn't happen accidentally. It must be intentionally cultivated. Our updated core values now center around professionalism, collaboration, humility, and equity. And I think that those values resonate strongly within African context because community, humanity, dignity, and collective responsibility are already deeply rooted within many African cultures. The future of coaching cannot be about performance alone. It must also be about humility. So now, this is important that DIB conversations within African context can't simply mirror conversations happening elsewhere. Africa is not a monolith. Different countries, different tribes, different languages, different history, different reality. And because of that, DIB within African communities carries unique complexity. In some places, tribes deeply shape belonging and opportunity, where others, economic equality creates invisible barriers. Other places, disability inclusion remains under discussed. Gender dynamics, religious differences, urban versus rural access, the list goes on. But all of these realities influence who feels included and who does not. And if we are honest, many people have learned how to survive spaces without ever truly feeling they belong in them. And that matters because belonging is different from presence. Someone can be present and still feel invisible. Someone can have access in the room and still feel unsafe speaking in it. That is why belonging matters. That is where coaching becomes powerful because coaching creates spaces, a space for reflection, awareness, and transformation. And societies navigating complexity need more spaces for honest reflection and not less. And this is where I believe Kenya has a remarkable opportunity, not just to participate in global DEIB conversations, but to help shape them. Because Kenya sits at the intersection of tradition, innovation, entrepreneurship, community, technology, and global influence. This is a nation filled with brilliance, youth leadership, creativity, resilience, cultural richness, and possibility. I believe Kenyan coaches are uniquely positioned to help bridge divides, to help create conversations where many people are afraid to have, and to help leaders move from performative inclusion to courageous inclusion, to help organizations become more human centered, to help communities build trust across differences because coaching creates something powerful. It creates reflective spaces, and reflective spaces are where transformation begins. Kenya also has an extraordinary opportunity to influence how Africa contributes to the future of coaching globally, not just copying every Western framework, but bringing African wisdom, relational values, leadership perspectives, and community centered approaches into the profession because there are so many philosophies deeply rooted across African culture that the world desperately needs right now. Community, shared humility, cre- uh, collective responsibility, human dignity. Those are not weaknesses, those are leadership strengths. And frankly, in a world becoming increasingly polarized, disconnected, and transactional, the global coaching professional needs more humanity, not less. So, as I close, I want to leave you with this thought. DEIB is not simply about fixing organizations, it's about restoring humanity. And that restoration begins when we move towards language into action, beyond statements into relationships, beyond awareness into accountability, beyond inclusion into genuine belonging. And the truth is, every single one of us helps shape the culture around us at home, at work, in coaching, in leadership, in community. The question is not whether we influence culture. The question is what kind of culture are we creating? Are we are people shrinking around us or are they growing around us? Are people performing around us or are they belonging around us? And that is the real work. And I believe coaches have a unique opportunity to build and lead these moments. Not because coaches have all the answers, but because coaching creates the conditions for deeper awareness, empathy, courage, and human connection. And Perhaps that is what the future requires most. Not perfection, not performance, but people willing to build spaces where humanity can breathe. And I leave you with this. Belonging is not created when people are merely allowed to be in the room. It is created when people no longer feel they must leave parts of themselves outside the door. Thank you.
Ooh, absolutely phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I am speechless. I don't know what more to say. Lynn, help me celebrate Dr. Finch. Do you have a Kenyan hit? Thank
I
you.
wish I did.
Thank you. Thank you
I am
so
so
much.
grateful
We are
for
honored.
that
Thank
and
you.
speechless as well. As you can see, the reactions coming in. Wow, Dr. Finch,
Ooh,
thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much. So, I think everything that needed to be said has been said. I do not know what else to say. But in a nutshell, we have had it for ourselves. We see the opportunity and we know what we are capable of doing, and we can commit to start from where we are. So I will leave you with a few words that DIB is both a human and business priority. Championing DIB is not only how we treat each other, it's also how we unlock the potential of every team member. Diversity is a fact, and it's about creating workplaces where we do not have to hide to succeed. Equity is a choice. It's about fairness that runs deeper than policy. Inclusion is not just about words. It's not about good intentions. It's how we make a good workplace. And the real work of making room for me, with all our beauty, complexity, and history, this work is both urgent and possible in our beloved homeland, Kenya. It starts with you, and it starts with me. It starts with us. Thank you, Doc. Back to you, Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. Wow. We are so, so grateful for such a timely and almost even heartfelt discussion. As you can see from the reactions and the comments, someone said that was church right there. Thank you. Emily says, wow, so glad I'm here. And Donovan said, took me to a higher mental and spiritual level. Didn't know I needed that message, but I definitely did. You have spoken for so many of us, Donovan. Thank you. Beautiful. And at this point, I would love to welcome any questions or any reflections that you wish to add as our participants. I do know that it's now a little bit past our lunchtime, but today's session was running till 2:30. So if you do have a question or a reflection, this is your time, and you are more than welcome to engage with the panel before you. Be interesting to know other people's reflections and if they share in these reflections as well. Just taking a look at the chat real quick. Well, perhaps I could ask one to any of you. And I struggle to figure out how to phrase it, but is there any responsibility that coaches have in challenging, exclusion and bias or harmful systems? Is there really like a specific responsibility that coaches perhaps have, or that you would point us to?
Well, I'll start. Um, I mean, as a coach, we talk about our ethics and things of that nature. And what I always say is that bias always exists. I mean, point blank. It's not going to go away. Bias is everywhere. And instead of us learning trying to get rid of it, we need to learn how to navigate it. And as coaches, when we bring different perspectives, when we ask those questions, we're helping our clients navigate it. We're not getting rid of it because they're going to deal with it every day. They're going to definitely deal with it when they leave us. But they're learning how to navigate it once they've left us, if that makes sense. Because a lot of, you know, daggers, dagger, 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 a short form of what I could say. You know, you're getting hit all the time. But then they come into this coaching session that is built, this environment that's built for them. And they learn how to get these tools that they can use in order to deflect those daggers. So that is what you are doing. You are teaching them how to deflect the biases. You're teaching them how to stand anyhow. You're teaching them how to move anyhow. You're teaching them how to speak anyhow. That is what our responsibility is in coaching, to create that environment, to create those, help them create those skills or find those skills through our questioning so that they can deflect and move. I hope that answered your question.
It absolutely did. It's almost as if we want to create a screen or a shield in which we know once we see or face our biases, we say, lay them down so that we can still see our clients and help them do the same. That's beautiful. I don't know if Wangari or Dr. Jen has anything to add to that. You are welcome to if you do, and if not, that's also fine.
If I may, if y'all have something to say, we're not sticklers and, all stuck in the mud. We want to have the conversation with you. So go ahead and put it in the chat. And we also want to know how it resonated with you. Okay, come on now. I see. Come on. We got questions. Let's do it.
The trigger was necessary, I guess.
I guess.
All right. So Wanjiro asks, with the attack on DEI in the US, are you experiencing any pushback from organizations taking this on?
Great question. So it varies, honestly. So when 120 happened, I call it 120. Yes, it was a whole lot of pushback because people were scared about how that was going to happen. People were losing their jobs left and right. They didn't know how how they were going to be seen because they still talked the talk. 120 happened, 121 at 6:30. I received the email, what is ICF going to do? I was like, at 8 o'clock, I sent them an email, the same thing we were doing on 119. And so, meaning we're not stopping. We're not stopping. We don't have we don't have a funding issue. We don't have a government issue. We don't have all of those things. We are apolitical and we have 140 chapters to serve. Okay? And several of them are outside of the United States. So that means I still have to show up every day and serve my Kenyan chapter, my South African chapter, my Netherlands chapter. Y'all see where I'm going with this, right? So that did not stop my flow. In fact, I had a board that was true to it, believed in it. I had a boss that supported it, and you had a DIB director at that time that was true to it. And we made it happen, right? In fact, our department expanded, our trainings expanded so that we were able to help coaches who were ready to stand and fight the fight because they were asking, so how are you going to equip us if we're going to keep going? So that's where the allyship class came from, the conscientious inclusion class came from, the cultural humility series came from. We were not standing back. And did I get the messages? Are y'all still woke? Yes, I am still woke. I will continue to be woke. I will never stop being woke. Okay? And that was basically the email. And I appreciate you for asking me the question and letting me proclaim to the highest of high that I am still woke. Thank you for your email and for your correspondence. So at the end of the day, do I get pushback all the time? But is it lessening now? Yes, because they're realizing that we're still and this is a nice little Western colloquialism, standing on business. So I agree. So with that being said, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, to add to that, I would say on 121, you and I met and we just actually went double, triple speed into it. Like I mentioned in my presentation, we had maybe 5 classes. We jumped to 14. So, and this is within a year. So Dr. Finch and I both have education backgrounds. This is where it's beneficial because we went double time. It made sure that what was happening in the US did not impact our DEIB department. We expanded our number of MRGs. We added 2 more. We added our practitioners group. We definitely made sure that nothing flagged in DEIB. We pushed forward, we expanded, and we've also been considerate of what that means to people too. Sometimes we have like my allyship conversation at Converge. Mine was a co-presentation with one of our facilitators, Jeremy May, where we talked about how to be allies when you can't say DEIB because we know that it's not easy out there. We know that people are still trying to do the work, but can't say DEIB, but can't be woke in public. And that's challenging because you feel like you're letting people down if you can't be open about it. But you also have to feed your family because you have to keep your job. So it's an interesting balance that people are walking here in the US and in different parts of the world too, because this has impact outside the US. So we are aware of that. We do things to make sure that those people can come to our events and be included too. So yeah, but that is a great question because like Dr. Finch said, we do get pushback from organizations, but we have adapted and we have made accommodations where need be.
Wonderful. Thank you. Wanjiro, I hope that aptly responds to you. Would love to hear your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And thank you for that answer because it really reinforces this is a personal choice. This is a personal choice and a personal journey that, regardless of what's coming to you from the external, right? Uh, we push through and do the right thing. Yeah, so I appreciate all your energy and, really um, uh, modeling for us that how we do this even when times are challenging, right? Because it's really important for us to stand up for what is right and to support others. Yeah, so I appreciate what you've shared with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I may, I would like to address Cassie's question here. She wants to know what other initiatives are being done to be more international. Great question. Um, so I believe I would just tell the story. So um, when I came in, it was very DIB was very US centric because that is what my leader knew at the time. I noticed that I was more thinking more globally, and I noticed that we talked to one regional leader, but we didn't talk to the other two very much. And I was noticing this thing. So when I became leader, the first thing I did was reach out to and y'all know them, Malcolm and Hatham, and said, okay, how do we start collaborating? How do we get DIB into your spaces? And through collaborations, we have now seen great progress. Um, Started going and speaking to the different presidents, start going and speaking to the different chapters. And the more we were speaking, the more uh, countries were starting to come to us and volunteer. And the biggest thing we heard was, I am tired of watching the recordings. I want to be in the room. And that hit me hard. And so from that statement, the first initiative was our DIB practitioners group, because most all of them are not in the United States. So our times didn't necessarily fit with them. And so we were like, they proposed, hey, can we do something in our time zones? And I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And so, and Jen is the wonderful person that gets to come up at 2 a.m. with them, and I appreciate her greatly. I swing it when I can. I'm being honest. So, but those hit tremendously. First day, it was a bigger audience than we get in the in the normal time zones, because they were so excited to be part of the conversation. And now we're doing our global cultural competencies at time inclusive uh, time zones. We are now starting to do our quarterly classes in inclusive time zones. We want you to be part of the conversation, because you have such great things to say and such great things to do. And then also, we're noticing on our boards, more of our boards are in inclusive places and spaces and are asking for inclusive time zones. I have a DIB task force on trauma, and we meet at 4 a.m. my time. But guess what? It works for them. So I get up. And so we have to make sure that it works for them. If they're going to do the work, if they're going to volunteer, we're going to get up. That's just what it is. And so we're starting with us. Yes. And I hear you, Cassie. And I know it was meant in love. Absolutely. But I want you to keep saying this, because I want to know what you're seeing that I'm missing. I take feedback well. I do. And I want you to continue doing it. Everybody in here, give me the feedback, because I can't do what I don't know. And so educate me. Just like I come to educate you about DIB, I want you to educate me about what you need in order to truly do all the things you need to do in your ICF membership. Okay? And I'm not going to say that it's going to take all it's going to happen instantaneously. What can happen in my department will. But other departments, I will stand on these meetings and put out your voice for you so that we can help move the needle. So I hope that answers your question, Cassie. And we're working for you, my friend. We are. But like I said, everybody else, let me know. Send me an email. Send DIB@coachingfederation.org. Let us know what you need, because I can't fix what I don't know. All right, I see
And if I
Jennifer
could,
wants to say something.
yes, because you can't forget this. We are super aware of this. IKENA has done an amazing job with letting us coordinate those inclusive time zones. I've tried to add the alternate times of when people can attend our events. But one thing that I definitely want to make people aware of, because we are really looking forward to this, is we recognize that ICF has 6 regions. My colleague Sarah and I will be doing a 6 region, 6 voices listening session later in the year. We've just got those set up, and we have invited Wangari actually to be one of our co-hosts for your region. And we want to hear all of these things. Hopefully they'll all be said with love. Maybe they won't be, I don't know, but we recognize that we need to alter the content. We need to hear from the regions. So I hope that you will make it a point to come and talk to us, all of you. Hopefully will come and talk to us during those listening sessions. We will have 2 per region. We're inviting everyone in each region to please come and talk to Sarah and I with your coordinators, so that we can understand what DEIB looks like for you, how our content needs to be better shaped, what we need to do to offer more programming for you, so that we are getting you what you need, because you matter as members too. And again, if there's anything I can do for you, if there's anything you want to see, if you need a class right now, we are willing to do classes at alternate times. We just need to know when. So that's my job as engagement manager. Shoot me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, find me wherever you can, and let me know. But I'm happy to work with you. So that was all I wanted to add. Sorry.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you, Cassie, for that very intentional and necessary question. Because now we do know where to go and how to engage as well. And because I can just see we have run over time, allow me to thank our speakers today for gracing us. We really appreciate you making this time, engaging us in this specific conversation, and just getting us started on this journey of making DEIB more than just a buzzword for organizations or for us as a community, as the coaching community. And I hope that everyone knows that they can feel free to reach out to the DEIB team. They are very accessible, so please do take advantage and maybe plug in where you feel you would be best suited to fit, where you feel you would fit. I think that would be very valuable as well to the global DEIB agenda. And with that, I do want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Just a quick note that we still have some more sessions. We do have one more webinar happening this evening, 7 p.m. EAT on Educator as Coach. It's also going to be a wonderful discussion. Park University is partnered with us, and so has Global Coach Initiative. So please make a point of joining. Also follow us on LinkedIn. In case you haven't seen some of the posts, you can find them there. And with that said, allow me to release you to the rest of your day. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Lynn. Bye.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you. It was. Thank you.